Hello, Jacksonites, and welcome back to my first review of my relaunched channel line. Apologies for disappointing on not delivering a Phantasm franchise review. I decided to save that for a bit of a later date because my original plans were just to review all 5 movies in one video, but I kind of thought that didn't really. One, it sounded like it would take an absolute eternity, but also two, um, I don't think I could do the entire franchise justice in just one video. So I decided to go back to an old classic. I've been dealing with this franchise for a little while now. Kind of actually, since I moved into my new place, I've rewatched this movie, I think, 4 or 5 times. Don't know why. I've also watched the second movie of this franchise 2 or 3 times since then. I guess I've just been in a mood for this character lately. And no, I'm not wearing a Superman shirt because it has to do with this character. I actually should have worn a Batman shirt. But today I will be reviewing the 1987 sci-fi action classic, Robocop. Joining me today is a guy who hasn't been on my channel in a very, very long time. That, of course, being Shawnee Boy from JT is Reborn. Say hello.
Hello, Jacksonites and everybody. It's been quite a long time since I've been on this channel. Obviously, Nick had his hiatus, and then we just really couldn't get into doing like any types of videos for a while. I think the last one I did was the Jurassic Park 3 video, which was back in 2018. And yeah, it's been a while. I mean, we're halfway through this year, basically. I think like in a few days we'll be at the official halfway point. But it's been fucking crazy. So hopefully the second half of the year really turns things around. We need a really good second half this year, but we'll see what happens with that. But yes, today we're going to be talking RoboCop, and I love RoboCop. I've loved it like my whole life. I still have my Orion original RoboCop VHS. And then I also just recently bought the Blu-ray because, like I said, I've been in kind of a RoboCop mood too myself. I was just like, whenever it's on TV, I sit down and I watch it like all the way through. Like I can't help it. Like every time it's on, even if it's edited for TV, it can be funny, but like uncut, RoboCop is one of my favorite movies like of all time, and it just gets better and better the more I watch it. It's endlessly entertaining. I love Paul Verhoeven. This, Total Recall, Starship Troopers, those three. It's like that's like a great hat trick of movies you can watch. Like I said, Paul Verhoeven, it's just a sense of humor. It's just the over the top bloody nature of it all. The performances, obviously, you know, Peter Weller's great. The bad guys, I love 80s piece of shit bad guys. They're the most entertaining. They're such assholes, and you just can't take your eyes off the screen. Even just a little minuscule henchman. Like there's that one guy, I can't remember who he is, the one guy who laughs like the Joker. Whenever he's killing somebody, he's like, she was sweet. What was it?
Leon, that's his name.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But yeah, hilarious. Just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, RoboCop I consider to be one of my favorite films as well. I will say this right off the bat, though. If somebody was to ask me who I prefer, RoboCop or Terminator, I am more of a Terminator fan. I grew up more with Terminator. I have more nostalgia for Terminator. But don't get me wrong, it's kind of a thin line because, especially in the last couple of years, I do greatly appreciate RoboCop. So it's not like I'm saying I dislike RoboCop. I do still prefer Terminator, but RoboCop is one kick-ass franchise, despite the couple of blotches that it has.
I'll say this about RoboCop. Yeah, I'll say this about RoboCop versus the Terminator franchise. I think the first RoboCop movie is better than all the Terminator movies, in my humble opinion. I mean, really, for me, the Terminator franchise, the only two movies I kind of like are 1 and 2.
Big words.
I have to rewatch Genesis again, but RoboCop 1 I think is better than both Terminator movies. That's my humble opinion. Even though I'm more of a Terminator Arnold fan personally, I just think the first RoboCop movie is that fucking good, and it's got more going for it. We'll say that it's more entertaining, more over the top, more crazy, bloody. It's just got a lot more, in my opinion.
And again, them's big words. So.
Oh yeah, and I'll fully stand by my stance on that. I still haven't seen the sequels really to RoboCop, but the first movie, definite.
Let's move into our personal history with RoboCop, shall we? Shawnee boy, you can go first since you're my guest. It's been a while since we've had you here.
Oh yeah, it's been quite a while. My initial history when it comes to RoboCop is I just had the VHS as a kid, and like I said, I'd be at a very young age watching R-rated movies. Like I think the first R-rated movie I saw was Predator at age 5. So, and then I just would just take all the VHSs and I just put them on. I wouldn't care. I shouldn't have been watching movies like RoboCop, but I did it anyways, and that explains why I'm as crazy as I am now. But yeah, so like I said, RoboCop was one of those things. I just had the tape, and I'd watch that, and I watched a bunch of Arnold movies and '80s action movies, and that's pretty much my history. Like I said, I watched it as a kid. I really enjoyed the bloody violence, but as I got older, I grew to appreciate it like more and more because there's a lot of things that goes over a little kid's head. When I'm younger, it's just kind of like, okay, there's the badass action hero and there's the bloody, gory violence. But as I get older, I understand the humor more. I understand. I learned to appreciate the over-the-top scenery-chewing bad guys, and yeah, like I said, RoboCop. It's to me like just every little bit like you can think of in this movie. It all works. Like there's nothing really bad about it. It's a fantastic '80s action movie. Just a movie in general. Like I said, is it Paul Verhoeven's best movie? I don't know. Like between this and Total Recall, it's really tough for me to choose.
Yeah, that's
I just think it's fantastic.
It's kind of a really difficult decision. I know I said in our top 12 Arnold movies that I might go for Total Recall over RoboCop, and I really don't know. It kind of just depends on the day. Some days I prefer RoboCop, and some day I feel like RoboCop is a little bit more watchable, like rewatchable than Total Recall. Like you could just pop RoboCop on any day and just have fun with it. But with Total Recall, you can still have fun with it, but I do feel like more Total Recall, you have to be in a bit more of a specific mood or mindset to watch Total Recall. And you also cannot watch Total Recall like in the middle of the film and then go from there. You have to watch the thing from beginning to end. Whereas the RoboCop, you can just pop on any scene and watch it from there.
Yeah, exactly.
So they both have their strengths and weaknesses, but so I really don't know. But maybe RoboCop is probably Paul Verhoeven's most classic film, not just because of its age, but honestly, when it comes to Paul Verhoeven, the number one movie that I think of whenever I hear his name is RoboCop. Now, for me,
pretty much then.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like that. It's the three I mentioned. Obviously, the other ones he did Showgirls, he did Basic Instinct, but those are kind of more lesser. Oh yeah, Hollow Man. But for me, like it's just RoboCop, Total Recall, and then of course Starship Troopers, which Starship Troopers is very funny too. It's just that sense of humor he has about it all. See you on the battlefield, Trooper.
I think that Hollow Man is Paul Verhoeven's most underrated film. Probably said nobody ever.
Yeah, I can see that.
So my personal history with RoboCop. Of course, I grew up as a Terminator fan. I grew up as a massive Terminator fan. I love killer robot cyborgs, and I loved big guys with metal skeletons with big guns. But being a Terminator fan, of course, I would hear the name of RoboCop, and I would always wonder like what's RoboCop? I've never heard of RoboCop, but I wouldn't mind checking it out. I was on a vacation with my dad and stepmom and a couple family friends of theirs. And one day I just so happened to catch RoboCop 2 on theater, or not on theaters, yeah, totally, on TV. And it was edited, of course, but there was a scene where RoboCop was going around with his big badass gun, mowing down dudes with guns left and right. I was like, oh, so this is what RoboCop is. Okay, that's cool. About a year or so later, I just so happened to be visiting my stepmom's parents, and he had a big collection of movies, and one of them was RoboCop. And I asked him, hey, can I check out RoboCop? He said, sure. So we popped it in. It was on VHS, of course. I sat down, I watched RoboCop for the first time, and my mind was blown. I was like, wow, that was a really good movie. A few years later, when me, my mom, and my stepdad were frequenting a flea market out in Portland, I caught it was a VHS of Robocop 2. So I swooped that up and I watched that uncensored and uncut, of course. That one also blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is like one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And I must have watched Robocop 2 like at least 100 times over the course of one summer. But then I just felt like I was being starved of the first film. So going to the same flea market, I just so happened to walk across a sealed DVD copy of the first RoboCop, which to this day I suspect that dude was selling a stolen DVD. And I still own that DVD to this day. Of course, I have the Blu-ray, but this is the unrated director's cut, so this is a different copy. But
yeah, Mike, I ordered that off freaking Amazon. They gave me this cut right here. So I mean, I just literally got it in the mail like last week, so I got to check it out. But I'm like, this is different. Like, and I had to look, and I'm like, why is this different from this? Why did it's dumb.
And so I watched the original RoboCop movie for the first time in maybe 8 years. And it blew my mind once again. I was like, God, this is a fucking fantastic ass movie. And also over the course of one summer, I must have watched the first RoboCop maybe 100 times. And haven't been the same since. I'm a diehard RoboCop fan. I've seen the original trilogy, and I do want to see more. I haven't seen any more of the rest of the franchise, but thankfully all except one is readily available, so I have to rectify that. I haven't even seen his yes, my nephew's in the background watching my video. Haven't even seen the reboot. Not really sure if I want to, but I'm probably going to have to get around to it eventually. Having freaking Rick Flag as RoboCop.
You didn't see the remake, did you?
No, I did not. But I know that Rick Flag from Suicide Squad plays RoboCop.
It's I didn't finish it. I'd started it because it was on Netflix. It was kind of dull.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, it was pretty like lifeless and dull. My brother finished it. He was like, it's yeah. And I wanted to like it because I mean it's got a good cast in there. You got Michael Keaton, who I really like. Rick Flag, Sam Jackson's in it. Yeah, Jackie Earle Haley was in there too, if I recall. But again, it was just kind of one of those things where I'm just like, this is just. There's certain movies like it's the same thing that happened with they went PG-13 with it, which is a big mistake right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did the same problem when they remade another Paul Verhoeven movie, which was Total Recall. Now, the remake of Total Recall I saw in theaters was ass. Like I really hated that movie.
So I hear.
I'm like you. Yeah, I mean, you have a catfight between Kate Beckinsale and Jessica Biel, and it's still not entertaining. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's a big problem. I just was sitting there with my friend. I'm like, wow, this sucks. They're not even going to Mars. They're on fucking Earth. This is lame. Where's the creativity? Where's the funny jokes? Where's the over-the-top Paul Verhoeven style? It was ass. It was just ass. Don't remake Paul Verhoeven movies.
No.
Just don't.
Unless you're going to remake Starship Troopers and make it more accurate to the original novel.
Right. But then again, Starship Troopers is so like enjoyable the way it is.
True. Oh, and of course it's
Join the Federation.
It's got to be a Jacksonite Productions video with one of these.
Oh, what is that? Cherry knockoff cola?
I'm poor now, so I can't afford the good stuff.
You could just drink water. But then we wouldn't get the burps. We wouldn't get the burps in there. So,
all right. So, let's move on to the plot of RoboCop, shall we?
Okay.
In a dystopian future, Detroit, Michigan is on the verge of collapse due to financial mismanagement and a high crime rate. So pretty much like how it is now.
Well, to be fair, as somebody who's basically from Detroit, it has gotten a lot better. We don't have. It was really, really bad a few years ago when they had Kwame Kilpatrick in there and he was stealing money from the city, and then he got thrown in jail. Then they kind of like cleaned up a lot of the area, like downtown Detroit. Ever since they built in like the new arenas, like the Little Caesars Arena, like that arena is top of the line, really nice. They've opened up a lot of new restaurants and bars down there. They've cleaned up a lot of downtown Detroit. They've kind of, I guess the word is gentrified it a little bit, but it is a lot nicer than it was a few years ago. So I'll say that. So it has improved a bit.
Fun fact, Robocop 2 gained a lot of recognition in 2013 when Detroit actually did file for bankruptcy, because that's what Detroit does in Robocop 2.
Yeah, well, like I said, Detroit, like a decade ago, wasn't in very good shape. It was, like I said, it was a corrupt mess.
Yes.
A lot of corrupt people, though. So, and yeah, you never forget that trial. Like, speaking of that too, like I just remember when Kwame was finally getting like thrown in jail, he was like, "I'm sorry." I just remember that.
No,
line.
you're not. You're just sorry you got caught.
Exactly. There's a lot of corruption in Detroit, so I'll just say that. But things have improved a great deal, so I'll say that.
The city signs a deal with the mega corporation OCP, aka Omni Consumer Products, which is just called OmniCorp in RoboCop 2014. Why? To run Detroit's police department in exchange for letting OCP rebuild rundown sections of Detroit into a high-end utopia, which over the course of the original series never really comes to fruition.
Right. I'd buy that for $1.
Senior Vice President Dick Jones, played by
Ronnie Cox.
Ronnie Cox.
Magnificently by Ronnie Cox. I fucking love Ronnie Cox. And he's in fucking Total Recall.
I like him better in Total Recall, if I'm being 100% honest, but whatever.
It's tough. It's tough because he's such a great asshole in both of them. I don't know. This one, I laugh quite a bit because he's got Miguel Ferrer there. And he's like, you just fucked with the wrong guy.
A lot of the cast members, specifically both of the villains, they were cast against type for this film because beforehand they were just both known as nice guys, quote unquote. Dick Jones, which is a terrible name, demonstrates a new law enforcement robot called the Ed 209, Enforcement Droid Series 209. However, the robot malfunctions, brutally massacring an executive in over-the-top, squibby, bloody fashion. Oh my god!
So, and then they just like brush it off like it's nothing. That's
for a whole minute, an entire full minute. This robot just lays waste to this dude, and it's just so over the top and hilarious that it just becomes like, what the fuck?
Oh, that's what makes it so great.
Bob Morton, an ambitious executive, uses the opportunity to introduce his own experimental cyborg design known as Robocop. The chairman of CEO is dismayed at the Ed 209 failure and approves Morton's plan, much to Jones's chagrin. Out on patrol in the violent Metro West precinct of Detroit, officers Alex Murphy, played by Peter Weller, and Ann Lewis, played by Nancy Allen from Carrie, pursue a notorious gang led by the infamous Clarence Spottiger, played by
Kurtwood Smith. Ah, yes.
Kurtwood Smith, yeah, from that 70s show fame.
He's so goddamn good at this movie. Like, I was watching just a compilation before we started this video of just his little moments, yeah, my favorite line, bitches leave.
Let's see.
When he's like, you burnt the fucking money.
It's as good as marked, you asshole, you stupid asshole.
Oh, it's so entertaining. I love piece of shit 80s villains because they're so out of touch with reality. They're so out of touch with reality. They're such assholes, but they're fun to watch. Like, you don't really get villains like that too much nowadays. Like, the closest I'd say was in the Birds of Prey movie where Ewan McGregor just was like,
hams it up. Oh my god, is he funny.
That's what I mean. You got to have really piece of shit hammy villains. That's my favorite type of bad guy in these movies. They're fun to watch. Clarence is amazing. Like, perfect. Just a perfect bad guy.
Murphy and Lewis pursue a notorious gang after an armed robbery led by Clarence Spottiger. Investigating their hideout, which is an abandoned steel mill, Murphy kills one of the gang members but is ambushed by Spottiger. Spottiger and his accomplices shoot Murphy. Not just shoot him, but they fucking massacre him repeatedly with their shotguns until Spottiger...
Especially the one guy with his cackling laugh. She was sweet. He does the Joker laugh.
Oh, God. Until Bodiger finishes him off by shooting him through the head, which I swear he should have died from because it was a Desert Eagle.
Yeah, that even to me, I'm like, if he shot his like torso and all that, I could have understand him like not surviving. But he got shot right in the fucking head. His brains are bye-bye, splattered all over the place.
Lewis arrives too late to help, and Murphy is evacuated by helicopter but dies in the trauma unit. OCP claims Murphy's body and converts it into Robocop. Robocop is programmed with three main directives: serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law. And he is assigned
and then
back
there's
to...
the fourth one.
Yeah, there's the fourth one. We'll get to that in a minute. Robocop is then assigned back to Metro West, where he begins a brutally efficient campaign against crime, cleaning up a vast majority of it within just a couple of days.
And shooting people in the dick.
Yep, and shooting people in the dick.
Butters, you shot him in the dick. Oh, God almighty.
However, fuck, I can't talk.
Today, Junior.
Fuck you. However,
see, haven't you missed this? Like, I could just give you shit constantly.
Boy. Shut up, Sean. However, though Murphy's memory was wiped, Robocop begins to remember scenes from Murphy's life, including his death. Lewis confirms to Robocop that he is, in fact, Murphy, much to his shock, and Robocop foils an armed robbery while out on patrol, perpetrated by Emil Antonowski, one of Boddicker's gang members who participated in Murphy's death. Emil recognizes Murphy's mannerisms. Dead or alive, you're coming with me, furthering Robocop's memory recall. He uses the police database to identify the gang members and locate his home, which is now abandoned. And meanwhile, at the behest of Jones, Clarence Bodiger murders Bob Morton. Robocop locates Bodiger at a cocaine factory where he kills the workers present and arrests Bodiger. So I'm pretty sure he's the only person in this movie who he actually arrests. Robocop brutalizes Bodiger by throwing him through 2 or 3 full plain glass windows.
Oh, yeah. Great stuff right there. I work for Dick Jones. Fuck you. Oh, wait. Just give me my fucking phone call.
While spitting a giant-ass pool of blood on the counter. He brutalizes Bodiger, but before Robocop can kill him, Bodiger reveals that he is in Jones's employ. Depositing Bodiger at Metro West, book him. He's a cop killer. Robocop heads to OCP Tower to arrest Jones for aiding and abetting a known felon. However, when Robocop attempts to arrest Jones, Robocop unwittingly activates a previously unseen fourth directive implanted by Jones himself. Any attempt to arrest a senior officer of OCP results in shutdown. Jones admits his culpability in Morton's death and tries to kill Robocop with an Ed 209 unit. However, Robocop escapes to the garage where police ambush him and shoot the living shit out of him. Lewis finds Robocop and it helps him escape to the abandoned steel mill factory to repair himself. Angered by the OCP's underfunding and short staffing, the Detroit police call a strike, and Detroit descends into utter chaos, which is exactly what would happen if any police force was to go on strike. Jones, having freed Bodiger and his gang, provides them with heavy weapons, Cobra assault cannons, state-of-the-art bang-bangs, and a tracking system for Robocop, which leads them back to the steel mill and is sent out to destroy Robocop. The gang arrives, but they are dispatched by Robocop and Lewis. The final confrontation with Bodiger ends with Robocop violently stabbing him in the throat with the computer data spike installed in his fist, which is pretty much a USB port.
Mm-hmm.
Robocop returns to OCP Tower, destroying the Ed 209 at the door with Bodiger's weapon, and he confronts Jones at a board meeting, revealing the fourth directive and his recording of Jones's confession. Jones grabs a gun and takes the OCP chairman hostage, planning to escape via helicopter, but the chairman clues in and fires Jones. Dick, you're fired! Thank you.
Fucking Connell Cochran, too, if I recall, right?
Yeah,
From
that's
Halloween
him.
3.
fires Jones, making the fourth directive irrelevant, and allows Robocop to shoot him dead, falling out the tower to his death with long stop-motion wing arms. We'll talk about that later. Impressed and thankful for saving his life, the chairman asks Robocop's name. He simply replies, Murphy, indicating that he has regained a sense of his humanity. Cut to the epic Robocop theme over credits. So how about this plot? Well, it certainly is original.
Right, it's creative.
It's very creative. It's very unique. And you can tell a lot of effort was put into this film. And overall, I don't see any problems with this movie's story. I think it's just fine the way it is.
Right, and because of Verhoeven making it, this could have been something done in a lesser director. Yeah, it could have been done badly in the hands of a lesser director, but because Verhoeven is extremely talented and he has that unique sense of style where it's like over the top gore and a lot of humor. Like that's like trademark Verhoeven.
It's funny to think that initially Paul Verhoeven declined directing this film because he thought the concept sounded stupid, but it was his wife that made him read the script and see a lot of the social satire and social commentary underneath the lines of the film script. So we actually have Verhoeven's wife to thank for getting him to direct this film.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. That's great.
So with all that being said, let's get into the pros and cons of Robocop. Shawnee boy, you can go first.
Geez, where do I even start? Oh, we'll start with one of my first pros of the movie, which is, I guess, my favorite aspect of it. The villains. I love the bad guys in this movie so much. They are so entertaining. I remember seeing, I was watching some videos where they were talking about, the making of RoboCop, and the writers were basically talking about how they wrote them as being, so entirely out of touch with reality. Obviously, Ronnie Cox is great. You throw Ronnie Cox in there as the bad guy, you're going to have something pretty entertaining. But it's Clarence Boddicker who ultimately steals the show in this movie because he's such a piece of shit. And I just, every time I see him just getting angry and calling people all sorts of names like dumbass, blah, 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 you burnt the fucking money. You asshole,
burnt the fucking money.
Yeah, just stuff like that because, like I said, it's Kurtwood Smith. I love him from that 70s show as Red Foreman. I just see Red Foreman just getting super angry, just taking it even further. And that, to me, it just makes it so much funnier because it's Red Foreman doing this shit. And yeah, everything involving the villains, just kind of little things too. Even the Bob Morton guy is kind of like a piece of shit too. Him with the prostitutes. Very petty. He's snorting cocaine off their titties.
Okay. I thought you were talking about Dick for a sec. Yeah, he's snorting cocaine off the tits. How classy.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It was the 80s.
About the 80s. Yeah, they went all out. They didn't hold anything back with this shit. They went all out crazy. And then even when Ronnie Cox is there with them, or Dick. Oh God, again, Jesus. Even I love too is the villains are villains too, kind of other pieces of shit kind of people too. The Bob Morton guy, the one who's gets where Clarence goes into his house and he ultimately blows him up. He's like, "Hello, buddy boy, Dick Jones here." He's like, "You're not so cocky now." And he's like, "When he's paid you, I'll double it." He gets shot right in the legs. He's got the squibs going off. That shit was great. And when he takes him to the bathroom, he's just like, "You just fucked with the wrong guy." I thought it was like, Jesus. I said, little shit fun. Like that. Yeah, I love those types of bad guys. He is an asshole. He's so out of touch with reality. Clarence is out of touch with reality. Just a real psychotic piece of shit. But he's fun. Come on, Sal. Tigers are playing tonight. Never miss a game.
Never miss a game.
Great. The villains are great.
He's also racist too. When he calls that dude a wop, which is apparently the N-word for Italians.
Oh. I never understood. I was like, I never even knew what that meant. You stupid.
I didn't get it either until I watched it with my wife, and my wife is Italian, and her father's Italian.
Oh, well, now it makes him even more of an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I said, even this little henchman too, the one guy who's laughing, she was sweet. Like that guy's laugh,
very obnoxious.
It's obnoxious, but it's a really funny laugh too. Like it reminds me of you ever watch Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? Remember Skull? Vulcan Skull.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of that's the laugh that he has, but like way more over the top. So yeah, that's my pro number one. Is the villains. They're just a joy to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So
continue.
Oh, go ahead. That was my pro.
All right, so my pro number one is the characters. Not talk about the villains. We'll get to that. But the characters overall, I find to be the main characters. We'll talk about the least main character, that being, because I don't think he really gets enough credit. Sergeant Reed, played by, I believe, was it Richard Pryor?
Richard Pryor wasn't in this.
Who the fuck is
Robert Doki? Is that his name? He was in all the Robocop movies, wasn't he?
He was in the first original 3, yeah. Robert Doki. He's fun to watch. He's trying his damnedest to be the chief of police and try to keep the city together while also keeping his men together. But he's not one of those dumb bureaucratic cops that kind of turns a blind eye to some of the criminal stuff in order to get the big stuff. All crime is equal in his eyes, and no matter what you do, your client's a scumbag, you're a scumbag, and scumbags see the judge on Monday morning. Love him. I feel like he doesn't really have enough screen time in every Robocop movie he's in, but when he's on screen, he's great. He's one of those leaders that kind of emanates an air of quiet authority, like especially in the scene where the asshole cop is saying we should strike, fuck him, and then right when Reed walks in, he just instantly shuts up. So I like that about him. It's really nice when an actor can act out being somebody that has an air of quiet authority.
Mm-hmm.
Next.
So, for pro number two, I'm going to go with the humor of RoboCop. Again, this kind of ties into the villain stuff, but like I said, Paul Verhoeven's movies, they have obviously a lot of gore. There's also a lot of humor in there, especially with some of the social satire that goes on. Like, I just love the little bits too, like where they're like, you just look at the commercials in the background, they're like, ha 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 ha, I buy that for $1. Or what was the other one? Was it like that war battleship type game that they had too? Nukem, like just little shit like that just kind of makes this movie like, okay, that's pretty funny. Just little shit like that, just kind of the humor that's sprinkled out throughout the whole movie. It really sets this thing apart from something that could have been just kind of a generic 80s action movie. So yeah, like I said, the humor, I mean, I pretty much rambled and said all I could say about it, but it's a very funny movie. So,
and it's not cringy either. It's more subtle. Right.
Like Nukem, like that shit's funnier. I'd buy that for $1, just like literally looking right at the camera and saying it. Like just shit like that makes me laugh.
Pro number two, the music.
Ooh,
the music was composed by
Basil
Poledouris, I believe. I think that's.
I don't know what else they've done. So
he's Greek. Who else did the music for Conan the Barbarian?
Oh, he did the music for Conan as well?
Yeah, cool.
Oh, sweet. I love the music from Conan. It's great. Like, that music is fantastic.
Definitely the music more here than in Conan the Barbarian. Not by a whole lot, but I definitely still prefer this. We all know of Robocop's theme. What?
The Robocop theme is great.
Like I said, I'm
thinking of the Conan music. So
the Robocop theme, of course, is awesome. And I like how a lot of the score, it just has this really uplifting, heroic, badass feel to it. Like, Robocop truly is something special, and doing everything he does is for the good of Detroit, even if he is blowing holes through people's chests to get shit done. As long as you hear that music, you buy anything that he does for $1.
Yeah.
Not much to say about the music other than it's really, really, really awesome. That's definitely one thing that RoboCop 2 royally suffers from is the lack of the classic RoboCop theme. But overall, the music is awesome. The RoboCop theme itself plays 3 times throughout the course of the film. Once when he first drives off on patrol, the second time when he mows down all the motherfuckers in the cocaine factory, and the third when the end credits roll. And all 3 times, it's awesome. It just leaves you with a smile on your face, even as he's mowing down motherfuckers left and right. Next.
All right, so obviously I didn't really include the music as one of my pros, but basically everything you said, that's one of my pros there too. Is that fantastic score? But another one for me is the action and gore. This is a very bloody, violent movie. The over the top violence really, I chuckle and laugh at the over the top violence because Paul Verhoeven really loves over the top Americanized violence. He just thinks it's the funniest thing. So everybody's squibbed up all hell. There's some really, what was it? The guy turns into a mutant at the end of the movie, which was mute, when that was also
half melted and half just fucking liquefied or some shit.
Yeah, I'm like, Jesus. And then the part where I love the bad guy. The death of the bad guy is fantastic. The main one where he gets shot right out the window.
We'll talk about how that scene is a little flawed in a little bit, but continue.
But action and gore. I mean, it's 80s over the top Verhoeven. The action sequences are handled well. The music really does a good job with it. It's very gory, bloody. It's just all stuff that just makes it all more fun to me. So that's my next pro.
Let's see. Pro number 3 is the film's tone. The movie actually is overall kind of depressing when you think about it. The movie doesn't really have a happy ending because Murphy is still RoboCop. He's still 99% artificial. He doesn't have his family. He doesn't have his old life back. But Paul Verhoeven tricks you into thinking that this movie is more of uplifting and more happy with all the stupid ass commercials lifting up your mood. But I think the film's tone is perfect. I think it's the right balance of campy, but also dark and serious. It's a good mix. It's also one of those rare examples of a film that actually is quite dark, but does a good job of hiding it. And then once you realize, oh shit, this movie's actually pretty dark, you don't feel so bad about it. So I like that about this. Again, Paul Verhoeven, he's really such an underrated director.
Yeah, absolutely. He needs to make more stuff again. I can't remember the last thing he's done.
After Hollow Man, he went back to his home country and started making movies there.
Yeah, and apparently he's done some good stuff, but I miss that Paul Verhoeven touch here in the stateside. I wanted to direct something in the same style of, again, his 3 best movies, which is RoboCop, Total Recall, Starship Troopers.
I want to see him make a Punisher movie.
Oh, he'd make it super over the top. Well, then again, we have that already with Punisher Warzone. That's an underrated movie.
But I still would love to see I feel like the only thing as far as superheroes go that Paul Verhoeven could remotely kind of pull off is the Punisher. Because I can't think of anything else that he could do.
I'm just thinking now, just over the top stuff that he could have done. Imagine Paul Verhoeven doing instead of Zack Snyder doing 300, imagine Paul Verhoeven's 300.
Oh, geez, that'd be a mess. Yeah, so overall, the film's tone is very consistent. It's the perfect balance of being dark and light, but also still being kind of depressing at the same time.
Right.
Next.
Next pro for me is RoboCop himself, Peter Weller. Like I said, kind of going into the performances and everything, but Peter Weller is a very talented actor, and the way he's able to showcase so much emotion, which is kind of his chin and just kind of his little facial expressions and body twitches. He's amazing in this one. He's got that really distinct voice. Dead or alive, you're coming with me. just kind of everything about his whole performance really sells this thing. Like, I feel like that's like a cyber, like, I feel like that's a half man, half machine, even though he's just in a little costume there. Like, I totally 100% believe it. It's kind of like when I watch the Planet of the Apes movies with Andy Serkis. Like, I don't see like Andy. I don't see an actor there. I see like Caesar the ape. I see RoboCop when I see Peter Weller. He's just that good. Like, whereas when I watched the remake, like, I didn't really feel like that was like a RoboCop. I felt like that was just kind of an actor walking around in a costume, per se. And I haven't seen RoboCop 3, but
well, the guy that got to replace Peter Weller doesn't do terrible in RoboCop 3, but we'll talk about that when we get to RoboCop 3. So, fun fact, my next pro is also RoboCop himself. Though, real quick, I want to finish up I just realized I forgot to finish my pro for the characters. The rest of the characters are overall very good. They all give good performances. Nancy Allen does a really good job as Lewis. She and Peter Weller have really good chemistry together for the few minutes that we see Peter Weller as a human. And one thing that I love that they did not do was they didn't add like a romantic aspect to it. They have a chemistry, but it's not romantic. It's strictly platonic. They work together as partners, and I really like that. You don't really get that enough with cop relationships.
These types of movies. Yeah, like kind of going off that too, like the last time I saw something kind of like that, where it was like you think it could go that way, but it stayed platonic. I feel like it was Pacific Rim, where they had like the Raleigh and Mako thing, where they like at the end of the movie you think, oh, they're gonna kiss here, and then no, they're still platonic. I'm like, thank you. Oh, that just made it all so much better.
That
like with this one too.
They did that for a while between Scully and Mulder in the X-Files, but eventually it morphed into those two falling for each other. So take that for what you will.
I never really got into X-Files. I've seen a few episodes here and there, but I was aware that they ultimately did that. But I mean, yeah. So it was inevitable. But like I said, certain things, like I think we need to see more of that, where it's just some things just aren't like forced romances into things. Like if something comes across as like natural and organic, then I think that's great. But other times it's like we don't really need this. Just keep things platonic sometimes, because like if you get like a bad romance in a movie, it really drags it down. Or a TV show, just Attack of the Clones. You said?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that was just that's.
Let's not
honestly,
talk about
that's so bad. It's actually it's so bad that it's kind of entertaining.
A little bit, but still. So yeah, RoboCop himself. I used to have a lot of problems with the way that RoboCop is executed, because I used to really hate how RoboCop moves. But I have grown to appreciate it a lot more, because I always used to think that RoboCop would just be so easily defeated by anything other than either giant lumbering robots or regular humans. I always figure if you get a much more agile robot to fight against RoboCop, he'll just get his ass kicked, which is kind of true still, but they do showcase that RoboCop is much more agile than he looks. But RoboCop is just a total badass. I love his design. Fun fact, he was based upon a Japanese superhero, Space Sheriff Gavan. If you look up Space Sheriff Gavan and then you look up RoboCop, there's a lot of similarities. Except Space Sheriff Gavan doesn't use a gun. He uses a giant laser sword to kill his foes. But I love the color scheme. I love the dull, metallic, silvery blue. It goes very well with all the black parts of his suit. Love his gun, the Auto 9, which is so badass. Of course,
it's one of my favorite movie guns. Damn it! I know Jack was doing something on his channel. Talking about what's your favorite weapon, and I'm like,
probably should have mentioned that. Like, he asked me, "What's my favorite movie gun?" For my Q&A. I can probably actually give him two right now. Is RoboCop's Auto 9 and Terminator's lever action shotgun from Terminator 2.
Yeah, RoboCop's gun, like, I'm like, shit, that's a good one. Or like Han Solo's blaster. I don't know. Are we doing like real? I don't know. Whatever. But like I said, when he was asked those questions, I kind of zoned out. Like I couldn't remember it. It's one of those things that just kind of hits you and they're like, oh fuck yeah, RoboCop's gun was pretty iconic and cool. But yeah, the design is great. That's such a great design. And obviously Peter Weller went on to be Batman. He's got the chin for it, and he was really good in Dark Knight Returns. So,
oh yeah, that's right. We need to review that movie again. Keywords again. Anyway, so yeah, Peter Weller also does do a fantastic job. I'm very glad that they went with Peter Weller. Obviously, for casting for RoboCop, they did consider Arnold Schwarzenegger. That would have been cool, of course, but he already had Terminator, so can't go both ways.
This worked out better for everyone.
They also considered Rutger Hauer, which I don't think would have worked at all, and Michael Ironside. He would have pulled it off with the voice, but other than that, I don't really know about him. I like him as Darkseid.
I don't know. Michael Ironside, you like him as Darkseid, you said?
Yeah. I just bought the first season of the Harley Quinn show. Yeah.
Oh, he's on it. Oh, yeah. Harley Quinn, they just ended season 2. I tell you what, that show is actually surprisingly really good.
So I've heard.
But Michael Ironside, severely underrated actor.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, his Darkseid is one of my favorite villains of all time. Loved him in Superman animated series, loved him in the Justice League animated series, and he's also back for the Harley Quinn show, which was a big surprise to me. I didn't expect to see him in there, but just that voice. And obviously, I love him in Starship Troopers.
That's what I know him best for.
Yep, and Total Recall. Again, more Paul Verhoeven stuff. But whenever Michael Ironside shows up, he's bound to be entertaining. Even in fucking Free Willy, he's great.
Oh yeah, he is in Free Willy. Anyway, also a little bit of trivia. The reason why RoboCop moves the way that he does is because originally there was supposed to be an entirely different method. Peter Weller described it as a very serpentine liquid movement with the way RoboCop would move around. It was like Tai Chi with staccato bursts of speed. But because the suit weighed 40 to 50 pounds, plus the stiff scuba suit that he had underneath the big bulky suit, they just couldn't do it. And it was the suit alone that almost killed the movie. I watched an interview with Peter Weller after a screening of RoboCop a couple years ago, and Peter Weller gives the guy named Moni Akim a complete sole credit for saving the film, because he was a ballet instructor and an instructor in movement, and he was also the guy who designed the RoboCop suit. So he begged Orion to call him in and say, we got to give him just whatever he wants in order to help us figure out how to work with this suit. And that's how they came up with the extremely exaggerated robotic movement, which I think does sell the fact that he is so much of a machine that's just the way that he moves.
It absolutely does.
So it's kind of, you could definitely describe it as a big happy accident that RoboCop moves the way that he does. Because I honestly, for this design, speed and smoothness, I don't think would have worked. That's one thing I will give the 2014 RoboCop design, is that for that, because it's much sleeker and less bulky, speed and fluidity does work much, much better.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on, your next pro.
I guess I'll do I'm trying to think what else I can add for pros. I think my next kind of final pro is again, I love the setting for it. The futuristic Detroit setting is pretty cool because you don't really see that so often. But for me, I think the last pro I'll go with is the directing. Obviously, we've kind of gone on to praise Paul Verhoeven. God, I mean, at some point, it seems like I might just get on my knees for Paul Verhoeven in this video for the amount of times we've been praising him. But like I said, Paul Verhoeven's directing style, without him, this movie wouldn't be what it is. Let's be honest. Just because in the hands of a lesser director, you wouldn't get that sense of humor.
This could have been some cheap, poorly made, badly acted, cliche, generic piece of garbage B movie in the hands of anybody else.
But you put in the hands of a director like Paul Verhoeven, and you get RoboCop. I'll say another example of something that's kind of similar to this. Imagine Jaws not directed by Steven Spielberg.
Wouldn't work.
That could have it wouldn't work because he took what was basically a B-movie concept and turned into a first-class thriller.
Mhm.
That's kind of what Verhoeven does with this movie. You can have a good script, you can have like good things at hand, but if you don't have a good director, then it just all falls apart. But it worked because it had that satirical edge to it. It was funny, really gory. It shot very well. Like I love this, how it's like filmed and directed. And again, this is kind of early Verhoeven work, so it's like he doesn't quite have the big gigantic budget that he would have for something like a Total Recall. Like it's only $13 million for this budget, and
which
this
is
thing
amazing.
is like right, just what they're able to pull off in like every little detail. And again, like I said, Verhoeven's whole shtick, it just works. Like I said, I really like the guy as a director. So yeah, that's my final pro, because I feel like pretty much everything else kind of like is grouped into all the other pros. So
I have 4 more pros. I want to kind of breeze through these, but still. Pro number 5 is Clarence Bodiger. Christ, is he one despicable piece of shit.
he is.
I was telling my wife, like, you know, I know what's his name, Kurtwood Smith best as Red from That 70s Show, but you should watch RoboCop if you want to see how truly despicable of an asshole that he can be. And she did give him a little bit of praise. Yeah, he was cast against type for this film, and I always find it impressive if an actor can impressively pull off going against a complete different kind of person that they play in other stuff.
Clarence another
Bodiger,
example is I was going to say another example of that was Michael Douglas in Wall Street. Before that movie, nobody expected him to be able to play a villain, and then he gave one of the most memorable like movie villains with Gordon Gekko. So
yeah, Clarence Bodiger, I definitely would list him as one of my favorite 80s movie villains. I'm shocked that James Rolfe didn't include him in his top 10 baddest bad guys video. But then again, he also did have Clubber Lang, so that works too.
Oh yeah, pity the fool. Come on, woman. I want Balboa. Love Mr. T in that movie.
Let's see. Next, pro number 6 is the gore. Like, my God, is this movie over the top violent. The squibs are gigantic, first of all, on the person's body. And when they explode, they literally just spurt and splatter blood all over the place. When Emil gets melted and then splattered all over the car, it's just like fucking wow, dude. He had to have had some, like, you could not kill this guy quick enough when he walks out of that pile of toxic waste. Murphy's death is almost unwatchable because it's just so brutal and it's so over the top that it just leaves your jaw hanging open. And of course, Clarence Bodiger's death. I like to think that when he gets stabbed in the throat, like right when Robocop yanks his fist out, his jugular vein just explodes. That's why there's that giant splash of blood all over his chest. This movie, if you are a big gore hound and a big gore nut, you will absolutely adore this film. Next is the action scenes. Action scenes, yes, it's 80s. Maybe that's the only area that you could kind of say that the film is cliche, is that it's just typical 80s over-the-top action. But it's still entertaining, so why would that even be a problem? It's well executed. It's well edited. It's very well edited, actually. It's not choppy or shaky. It kind of reminds me of Commando a little bit, except instead of the jungle.
We got to talk about Commando on here at some point. We really do. Agreed. Please.
I'll write you down for a Commando review.
Oh, thank God, because I fucking love Commando.
Of course, with the violent squibs, it makes the action scenes much more entertaining. And just watching Robocop go around with his Auto 9 mowing down motherfuckers left and right, it's so fun. And finally, the last pro that I have is the special effects. 95% of the time, the special effects are very solid. Obviously, the Robocop suit is well constructed. There's a couple areas where you can kind of see the seams in his gloves. And obviously, you can tell that his chin guard is rubber. And it also disappears when he takes off the top of his helmet. And And the bald cap on Peter Weller. Well, I'm getting into the flaws, but the special effects are really solid. The production value is really good. The sets are well made. They look futuristic, but they still look plausible. And also Rundown Detroit. I'm pretty sure they didn't even need to make a set for Rundown Detroit because it did look that shitty back in 1987.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, the gore is good. The squibs are good. Overall, the stop motion is also very good too for the Ed 209s. I didn't even realize, like, oh my god, yeah, duh, of course, it's stop motion animation. When I watched this as a kid, but the stop motion looks very good. It's slightly choppy in a couple scenes, like especially when you have the two legs of the Ed 209 muttering and sputtering around after the top half gets blown off. Like there's a couple shots where the stop motion is a little see-through. But overall, the stop motion is very good. I think it was Phil Tippett who did the stop motion animation for this film. I think. Because I know he also worked on Robocop too. I think it was Phil Tippett. But overall, the special effects are really, really, really solid. Do you have any cons with Robocop?
I was trying to think. I couldn't really think of any, but kind of like what you said, I guess just kind of minor flaws. Like maybe some of the effects don't hold up quite as well, but really kind of just like little minute stuff like that. That would pretty much just be about it. Maybe some technical things, but really other than that, I think this is a terrific movie. So like I don't really have any cons aside from maybe a few technical things.
I have two cons. One is some of the acting in this movie is a little hammy. Specifically, Bob Morton. All of his acting is extremely hammy.
Oh, that's what I love.
I know, like, for some people it may work, but for me personally, I feel like 90% of his acting is just a little too cringy. Like, he's trying too hard to be hammy. Like, especially with... where he's snorting the coke off the tits. He's just so overly animated that it's just a little too... it just kind of takes me out of the movie a little bit. Let's see. The Leon, his annoying laugh, just absolutely... it sounds worse than nails on a chalkboard for me.
Leon's laugh is great.
Some of the that's really like some of the acting is a little hammy. It kind of takes me out of the movie a little bit. But the final con that I have is some of the special effects are dated. I'll say dated. This movie doesn't have bad effects. It has really, really solid special effects, especially for a $13 million budget. But there are some areas that have not aged very well. The stop motion animation is a little see-through in a couple of scenes. The Robocop suit does show its seams here and there. The bald cap on Peter Weller is plain as day because it's like 2 inches from the seam of the machinery to the top of his head. And also it's very obvious that his neck piece and like the back of his head is rubber and it's not plastic. And it's always stuck out to me in a bad angle. When Ed 209 fires its missiles, there's a shot where you can clearly see the string pulling the firecracker missiles right next to Robocop. Let's see. There was another aspect that I thought was kind of bad. Actually, no, that's a bad edit. Some of the effects are a little flawed and they do take me out of the movie just a little bit, but that's not really a blotch on the movie. It's just kind of one of those moments that make you go, huh? And then you just move on. Other than that, Robocop is a fine masterpiece of a film. If you want a classic 80s sci-fi action movie, other than Commando off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything else that could overcome Robocop. Robocop is as classic as it gets when it comes to 80s action movies. It's very entertaining. It's very well made.
There's a few other ones like... Well,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, wait.
Like you said, that Commando.
there's another moment in the movie, as cool as it is. I noticed it the first time I saw this, when Robocop punches that dude out the window, like who's holding the mayor hostage, as his fist like clearly goes right past the dude's face. I'm just like, oh my God, it's plain as day he didn't actually punch the dude. It just takes me out of the movie for just a minute. It's almost as bad as the fight at the end of Rocky 2, where a lot of the punches that Carl Weathers was aiming at Stallone just clearly do not make contact.
Oh, yeah. Complete misses.
Yeah. But moving on. Robocop's a great film. Go ahead, Sean.
Absolutely. Yeah, pretty much what you just summed up here. Like, Robocop is one of my favorite movies. I haven't watched it in a while. I really need to sit down and watch it again. But like every time I watch it, it just keeps getting better and better. I feel like it's endlessly entertaining. Great cast, fun, ridiculous, over-the-top villains, and it just puts a smile on my face. It's consistently entertaining from the beginning to the end. Over-the-top gore. It's pretty much everything you could want in an 80s action movie.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's got this nice satirical edge to it too, and that distinct Paul Verhoeven touch.
Oh, so, wait, one more thing. I really
loved it.
One more thing. I keep forgetting. God damn it. The Dick Jones stop motion puppet at the end of the film. What's up with the long arms? They look like wings.
Oh, the one where he's like falling?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was a stop motion effect, which I really don't know why. Like, you couldn't just get a stunt double and just put him on a blue screen or some shit. It would have looked way better, because every time I watch the Dick Jones's death at the end of this movie, I see the long bird wings on the stop motion puppet. I'm just like, why? Why? But again, it's not a flaw. It's just one of those moments where you go, huh? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, to wrap up, it's a great film. And my rating of Robocop is, of course, what do you think it is? A perfect solid 10 out of 10. Buy it. Buy it on Blu-ray.
I'm going to agree with you on this one. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Robocop's a 10 out of 10 80s action movie. Is it my favorite of the 80s? It's one of my favorite movies. I put it in probably the top 25 for sure.
Same for me.
That's just being vague, because there's a lot of movies top 25. So it gets the 10 out of 10 perfect score type rating, because it just, like I said, consistently entertaining from beginning to end. RoboCop is a Detroit icon, so I got to show some support in that regards. Him and Axel Foley are like the two. And then Action Jackson. We'll have to talk about that movie at some point. You ever heard of that one?
No, I've never heard of Action
Jackson.
Oh
my God. I haven't seen the whole movie, but it's Carl Weathers as a Detroit super cop, basically, in the 1980s. And oh, sweet Jesus. There's a part where, like, there's this guy who's facing him down. He's just like, come and get me, come and get me. This guy's got his car. He's like, I'm going to get you, Action Jackson. He drives full speed over him. Carl Weathers jumps over the fucking car, like, does a front flip. Like, he jumps like 15 feet in the air over the car. The guy's like, what the hell was that? Goes off a random ramp and then crashes through a building, and the car explodes. And I'm just like, what the hell? And I audibly gasped at the screen, because I was laughing so hard, and like, what the just happened? He jumped the fucking car. So you gotta watch that one. And like, even at the beginning of the movie,
feet.
Yeah, it's really stupid, but it's like a funny stupid. Worth checking out. But yeah, like I said, I don't know why my mind went there. Oh yeah, because Detroit icons in terms of that. So yeah, RoboCop, Axel Foley, and then fuck it, Action Jackson. You get third billing, buddy. But yeah, really love RoboCop. Just love the movie. It's great. One of the best action films ever made. So yeah, there's that.
Alrighty, so post your comments down below and let me know what you think. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. And thank you very much, Shawnee Boy, for joining me on this review. I had a lot of fun doing it.
Oh yeah, we didn't miss a beat.
Talk about one of my favorite
some things films. I was like,
Go ahead.
Thanks for having me on, Nick. I appreciate it.
What about?
You have to be on my channel.
What do you mean? What about the episodes? Solo.
Like, aren't the episodes different from the movie?
What, for the TV show?
Yeah.
kind of. I'll show you later. Look forward to my next review. Honestly, I really need to stop announcing what the next video is going to be at the end of this, unless it's obvious.
I had that same problem where it's like, oh, I'm going to work on this next, going to work on this next. Then I'm like, fuck, I can't. Like me, like right now, I was working on a video where I was trying to write it, and I'm just like, everybody's just like, take your time, take your time, take your time. Like, no, I hate making people wait. It's like when I finally have a day off where I'm not working, and I'm like, I have a chance to work on something. It's just like, you can relax, Sean. But it's like, no. I was like, I can't do it. Like, I'm like, there's something lingering over my head. I have to get to work on something.
Welcome
so
to adulthood.
That's kind of where I'm at now. But again, it keeps me motivated. So I'm going to try and like finish writing this thing hopefully tonight, record it tomorrow, get it out by next week. So, well, but yeah, thanks again for having me on, Nick. So this was fun. We'll definitely do this again.
Absolutely.
We definitely got to do Commando. So
absolutely.
So.
Try to get around to doing the watching the Robocop sequels, at least 2 and 3.
I almost bought them. I just bought Robocop 1 though. So I was going to buy
cheap.
2 and 3, but they were well, Robocop. I think I was trying to get the Blu-rays of them, but like some of them were pretty. I think Robocop 2's Blu-ray was like $40 or something off Amazon. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 that was really expensive, but I'll have to check them out at some point.
See, I got to end it here. Look forward to my next video, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Later, shiny boy.
Later, Nick.